In 1991, I first became aware of the Weishan internment camp when I went on a trip with my father, uncle, and aunt to Weifang in order to commemorate the Eric Liddell stone, which currently sits on the grounds of the museum. That was actually the first time I had heard about the camp. My name's John Stanley. I'm a professor at Kutztown University in Pennsylvania. It is my grandfather and father who were all in the Weishan internment camp. Now, prior to the war, my family had been in China, really since the 1860s. My grandfather returned to China in the 1930s, actually to study at Yenjing University. Once the war broke out, of course, he and my grandmother were kind of trapped behind the lines, trapped in Beijing. During the course of the war, of course, my father was born, and about a year after, not even a year after he was born, decided to open the Weishan internment camp. Nevertheless, when it was time to move, all the internees gathered and then were marched along the streets to the local train station, where they were placed on the train to go down to Weishan, the modern city of Weifang. One of the interesting stories from that experience, of course, there are many, but one of the interesting stories is that of a man who, because it was very cold that day, March in Beijing is still quite chilly, had given his padded jacket to my grandfather, who was not wearing a large jacket at that time. Now, once they arrived in Weishan, once they actually arrived at the camp, many people found that many of the buildings were in disrepair. The Japanese troops had been using it basically to house themselves for a long period of time. So the buildings that were originally in good condition likely were not when the internees arrived. The Japanese put more barbed wire up around the camp. They also created a defensive perimeter further away from the walls. And the internees were now required to come out for roll call every day, regardless of the weather. I've talked about the bad food, it getting worse, and in fact not having enough food many days. Many of the internees lost a lot of weight. Some of the children noted that it was amazing that they could wear the same shoes for a couple of years. This was basically because, again, they just did not grow as much, I guess, during the camp. I have done a PhD which focuses on the high school and the hospital that were in the camp. I also do include the camp in my classes when we talk about the Second Sino-Japanese War. I do talk about the experience of Americans overseas in the camps, not just the POW camps, but also these more civilian internment camps. Now, I do have many friends, colleagues in China. I do go there frequently to try to maintain these, so I also do this virtually. And I'm not sure if, even in my lifetime, if we'll definitely see world peace. However, I think if these things are approached, for instance, from a values perspective, that would be the best move. For example, if we look back to the period of Confucius, when they talk about don't do to others as you don't want done to yourself, and other ideas like that, which almost every society has, then I think world peace can be brought.
How much I love you, please don't take my sunshine away.